The Drudge story show that the media has literally no understanding of economic and tax matters. I think the mainstream media is pig ignorant of practically every discipline except party discipline. Now, here's basically what happened. Matt Drudge is a self-employed small businessman. As a result, Matt Drudge pays himself. He does not have an employer. Therefore, he does not get paychecks that contain all kinds of withholding for taxes and Medicare and FICA Social Security and whatever else. He has to pay all of his taxes separately and independently because they're not deducted. As such, as a small businessman, Matt Drudge and millions of others just like him, including your harmless, lovable little fuzzball host, pay our taxes every quarter. We have to pay what are called quarterly estimates. This is what Matt Drudge does. And it can get a little complicated. April 15th, the first payment is due. June the 15th, the second payment is due. September 15th, the third payment is due. And on January 15th of the next year, the fourth and final payment is due. Therefore, the first payment for the 2015 income tax year, Matt Drudge has to pay it on April the 15th, as does everybody else who files quarterly estimates. This simple fact is something that the smartest, by reputation, mainstream media reporters simply cannot understand and cannot get their arms around. Matt Drudge sent out a tweet on Friday in which he said that in his first quarterly estimate coming up in April, he will be paying his Obamacare penalty for not having insurance. And his tweet, he called it a liberty tax. And the media jumped all over him. They called him a liar. They told him he didn't know what he was talking about. Mainstream media reporters, the White House jumped all over Drudge with their agents on Twitter, Facebook, and the rest of the mainstream media and said that Drudge was lying to embarrass Obama. That Drudge didn't know what he was talking about. That Drudge was stupid. That you don't have to pay your Obamacare penalty until 2015 because it's been delayed for a year. Matt Drudge pointed out, no, not for us. I have to pay my 2015 taxes starting in April of 2014. And they can't understand this. It is amazing the degree of ignorance. He has talked to 3 or 4 of these people in person. The last one he talked to has admitted that he's probably not lying, but that he still doesn't have to do what he's doing. Fact of the matter is, when you file your taxes next April for this year, 2015, for 2014, everybody will have to pay the penalty, except those of us who pay quarterly estimates have to pay our taxes during the year. And as independent contractors, we have to pay everything that's due, estimated as it goes. The estimates can be very complicated. You can't simply take what you earned last year and divide it by 4 and make those payments. Because if you underestimate how much you owe, you get socked with a huge penalty. So the safest thing to do is overpay a little bit. So Drudge went ahead and made a payment on his penalty for not having Obamacare insurance because he's not going to buy it. He's going to pay the penalty. And at his income level, his penalty would be 1% of his annual income. Because the penalty formula is it's either 1% of your income or some other thing. It's the greater of the two, not the lesser of the two. Here's how Breitbart reports the story. A White House aide set off a stampede of liberal media criticism for Matt Drudge over Obamacare, but his critics don't seem to understand how small businesses pay taxes. The brouhaha started when Drudge tweeted, "Just paid the Obamacare penalty for not getting covered. I'm calling it a liberty tax." Jesse Lee, the director of progressive media at Obama's White House, responded that was a flat lie. No fee for previous year, adding, "Scary how much influence Drudge once had." So Obama's own acolyte, Obama's own White House smear merchant, doesn't even understand. Matt Drudge is not paying last year's taxes in April, like you will be. He is paying the first payment the government is due this year, as is everybody else. When Matt Drudge files his return, if he waits till April 15th, or if he's maybe already done it, let's say he hasn't, if Matt Drudge files his April 15th payment, he's already paid his taxes in 4 installments. He's just filing the return. He's already paid the money. Matt Drudge paid the bulk of this year's taxes last year. And he's paying the bulk of next year's taxes this year, as is everybody, every small businessman who is an independent contractor and files quarterly. And yet here's this White House tweeting out, flat lie, no fee for previous year. He's not paying the previous year. Drudge is paying this year's taxes. He's paying taxes on the year that the penalty will be imposed. He knew it, and his accountant knew it. He has to make the first payment on the penalty by April 15th. He went ahead and did it. He filed early just to be safe. Scary how much influence he once had. Was he talking about Obama? Moreover, why is there even a director of progressive media at the White House? Is there a director of conservative media there? Just kidding. Now, Jesse Lee's response to Drudge set off a firestorm in the liberal media, with many mainstream media and left-wing reporters countering him on Twitter and in their own articles to claim he doesn't have to pay Obamacare's individual mandate tax until next year. The individual mandate went into effect January 1st of this year. Most people paying their taxes right now are paying taxes for 2013. Dude, there's no penalty until next year, said Sahil Kapoor of Talking Points Memo, he tweeted. Kapoor's colleague, Dylan Scott, wrote a full story with a headline alleging that Drudge was probably lying. Americans don't pay a penalty for not having health insurance until they file their 2014 taxes in 2015, Scott wrote. So either Drudge is lying or he paid a huge penalty a year earlier than he needed to. Sam Baker, National Journal, tweeted, penalty isn't collected till 2015. The Huffing and Puffington Post, Jeremy Young, wrote a full article in which he described Drudge's tweet as weird, a little head-scratching, because the Obamacare tax doesn't kick in until the 2014 tax year. Drudge indicated in his follow-up tweets that since he's self-employed, he files as a small business. And according to the IRS website, for self-employed individuals, they are required to pay their taxes quarterly. As a self-employed individual, generally you're required to file an annual return and pay estimated tax quarterly. So when they file and pay those 2014 first quarter taxes, such individuals have to pay the Obamacare individual mandate tax if they opted to not have health insurance. It's on the IRS website. And still, the media is running around calling Drudge a liar.